Hello and welcome to Everyday Aero. Today we'll be looking at some of the major stories in aerospace this week. Starting us off, we have the Chang'e lunar lander's successful landing and launching from the surface of the moon. On May 3, 2024, China launched its lander with the mission of returning lunar rock samples from the far side of the moon. NASA has a detailed description of this mission online, describing the spacecraft as four main parts: orbiter, return vehicle, lander, and ascender. The entire craft enters orbit, and the lander and ascender leave orbit to travel to the moon's surface. The lander collects samples and loads them into the ascender, which then returns to the orbiting spacecraft. The samples, the orbiter, and the return vehicle return to Earth, where the return vehicle lands back on the surface with the samples. The spacecraft actually entered orbit back on May 8, 2024, just 5 days after it launched, but it orbited for 20 days as a landing site was selected. On June 1st, it successfully landed on the surface of the moon, where it gathered about 2 kilograms of rocks before the ascender launched back to the orbiting vehicle on June 3rd. According to AP News, before launching, the ascender unfurled the Chinese flag, but did not plant it on the moon. The spacecraft is expected to return to Earth around June 25th. China is actually planning to put a person on the moon by 2030, which would make it the only other nation besides the US to do so. Back here in the US, we also have some major space news. NASA and Boeing launched the CST-100 Starliner with astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore. The Starliner launched from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station on a ULA Atlas V rocket. During their flight towards the ISS, the astronauts were able to demonstrate the spacecraft's manual controls, including pointing an antenna at the Earth to connect to TDRS satellites, orienting their solar panels to point at the sun, and changing their orbit. CNN reports that these thrusters did experience some issues, with 5 failing initially until the astronauts successfully got 4 firing again. These issues delayed the docking with the ISS by just over an hour.
Comes after some troubleshooting of some reaction control system thrusters. Those are also known as RCS thrusters on the service module portion of the Starliner spacecraft. We had 5 at different points, had 5 of those thrusters go offline, and through several hot fire tests, we were able to bring back 4 of those thrusters and obtain the go and the redundancy that we needed to enter the keep out sphere and approach the International Space Station for docking.
There were also reports of a few helium leaks. Before the launch, the leaks were either fixed or deemed to be insignificant. The 2 astronauts on board later had to close 2 helium valves due to this leaking. Still, the Starliner completed its journey to the ISS on June 6th. The mission is to ensure all systems are working correctly, as this is the first of many manned Starliner flights to the ISS. They also brought supplies up to the ISS, and according to CNN, they brought a replacement for a pump that is used to convert urine into drinking water. Williams and Wilmore are expected to stay for 8 to 10 days before returning to Earth on the Starliner. Boeing and NASA post regular updates to this trip online, so I'll put the link in the description for those that are interested in keeping up with this story. Next up, we have a video posted by a YouTuber named Sukmin Choi, who could be facing up to 10 years in prison for the stunt involving shooting fireworks from a helicopter at a Lamborghini on federally owned land. The fireworks were also illegal in California and were brought in from Las Vegas. Choi didn't have a permit to film in the area and didn't have permission from the FAA to use the helicopter in that manner. His arraignment date is July 2nd. Next, we have Joby Aviation, a company that is developing air taxis and an aerial ride-sharing service, has purchased the company XWing. XWing developed autonomous flight control systems, including the Super Pilot, which is, quote, the world's first fully autonomous gate-to-gate flight technology. On their website, Joby Aviation quoted their founder and CEO, JoBen Bevirt, saying, quote, the aircraft we are certifying will have a fully qualified pilot on board, but we recognize that a future generation of autonomous aircraft will play an important part in unlocking our vision of making clean and affordable aerial mobility as accessible as possible. The exceptionally talented XWing team has not only made unparalleled progress on the development and certification of vision systems, sensor fusion, and decision-making autonomous technologies, but they've also successfully demonstrated the real-life application of their technology, flying hundreds of fully autonomous flights in the national airspace. We're honored to bring them on board at Joby as we continue our mission of building a next-generation aviation company. To me, this sounds like an interesting idea, and it seems to be moving forward, so I hadn't heard of Joby Aviation until now, so I'll definitely keep track of what they're doing. Next up, Airbus revealed a concept for a stealthy unmanned drone that would act as a wingman for human fighter pilots. The Next Web writes, quote, Airbus says Wingman's tasks will range from reconnaissance and jamming targets to shooting at enemies on the ground or in the air. The drone itself will not have a pilot in it, but Airbus claims a human fighter pilot will have total control over their unmanned wingman. A non-functional model will be on display at the International Aerospace Exhibition in Berlin, but it's important to remember that as of now, this aircraft is still just a concept. And finally, we have a video of a Canada Air Boeing 777 departing from Toronto to Paris, having an engine fire during takeoff. This happened on June 5th with 389 passengers on board. Despite the scary video showing fire shooting out of the engine, the pilots were able to turn around and safely land at the airport with no reported injuries. The plane has been taken out of service to be evaluated, but the rumor is that the engine experienced a compressor stall. The website American Flyers has a great article explaining what a compressor stall is that I'll link in the description below. An engine compresses air and feeds it towards the combustion chamber where it's ignited with fuel. In the event of a compressor stall, if the air isn't properly compressed and the pressure in the combustion chamber is greater than that of the compressor, hot air can blow back out towards the front of the engine. American Flyers describes the result as, quote, a loud bang, aircraft shudder, flames erupting out of the front and tailpipe of the engine, along with momentary engine indicator fluctuations. From the video, a compressor stall definitely looks like a possible cause of the fire. We'll have to see the official report when it gets released. But we also need to praise everyone at the airport, including the pilots and fire crew, for getting the plane back down onto the runway safely. And that wraps up all the stories I have in aerospace from this week. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I'll be posting more videos soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.